So hello, everybody. This is Tony Gordon from T. Gordon Salon Talks, Chairside Chats with Tony. And today we have on Leon Alexander from Eurisco Design. Leon, thank you so much for coming on the show. It is such an honor to have you on.
Thank you. It was great to see you last weekend as well.
Yeah, we were both at a conference in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was an incredible weekend. I got to climb a camelback, which is quite an experience on a super hot day. No, I didn't see any rattlesnakes, so I was just fine. No problems. But at this event, you gave an amazing speech. And, you know, I know that your background, some of your background, I know we're going to go through your background. I think it's really important. But you gave a speech that was, I think, at least an hour long that was about the future of salons, retail, software, and how it's impacting and the consumer mindset. And I know this is, I really want everybody to be able to hear your direction. You've written books about this, and for people to be able to understand the direction that you're coming at this from and how much space, interior design can impact a customer's behavior. And just go through us a little bit. I mean, that's a little anticipation of what's going to happen. But tell everybody about your background.
Well, I qualified at a very young age with a PhD in behavioral psychology with no real life skills. And what do you do at a young age with a doctorate and a PhD in behavioral psychology? You go into the beauty business, and that's exactly what I did. And I joined Vidal Sassoon as what was called a VARDER.
Hold on. You joined Vidal Sassoon and you already had your PhD?
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
did not have my PhD then. I had a master's then. But I joined them as a VARDER. A VARDER is something that they used that watched hairdressers. They never got paid. I did that for 6 months. I can't imagine a lot of people doing that nowadays.
A VARDER.
A VARDER, VARDERER. I think it's a French word, but Sassoon used it all the time. All you did is you watched the hairdressers, and at nighttime you got a model, and then you stayed to 10, 11 o'clock at night doing models. And after 6 months of doing that, you took a test to see whether you could be on the floor of Vidal Sassoon. This was back in 1969. And before, a lot of your viewers are probably it was at the pinnacle of Sassoon's creativity. He'd really launched out of London into America, had his own TV show, had his own products. And I stayed with them for 10 years and became their general manager. And I ran their salons from Dusseldorf, Frankfurt, Italy, Holland, and England. And it was an exciting time for Sassoons. From 69 to 80, I think probably was their peak. So that then really gave me a different way of looking at life rather than business. I looked at it from Sassoon's perspective. It was about how do you put value? How can you put creativity and true creativity? At those times, it was an incredible time in London. Fashion was great. Mary Quant was doing fashion. Sassoon was doing hair. The Beatles and the Rolling Stones were bringing out music. So the 60s and 70s I was fortunate to be in London at that time. 1980, I had an opportunity to acquire salons. I did not have any salons, so I left Sassoon's after 10 years, and with a partner, acquired groups of salons, and I ended up owning with 320 salons at one time.
How many employees were in that group?
But if you kind of figure, these were 5 different companies that we amalgamated together and kept the brand names. And so you could go to a town like Chicago and have 5 different salons with different brand names aimed at different socioeconomic markets, not knowing that one owner owned them all. So we kept the brand identity of them.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, we didn't increase the business dramatically, but we did save a lot of money on corporate overheads. You don't need 6 corporate offices. You don't need 6 secretaries, and you don't need 6 capital equipment like photocopy machines. So our profitability was great, but we didn't. How can you develop 320 salons with different cultures dramatically? I then, cut a long story short, had the opportunity with a partner, George, to acquire the distributorship of Aveda in the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the distribution was difficult. Having containers of products coming over from Minneapolis with no real marketing strategy was even more difficult. And that taught me how to panic. And it was evident that a marketing strategy was required if we were to flourish. I was mindful of what Walt Disney said. Think of what the competition are doing and do completely the opposite. And I didn't go into salons. Every other product line went into salons, and they showed them, this is how you retail.
Right.
We went into department stores like Harrods, Harvey Nichols, Liberty, House of Fraser, to compete against Estee Lauder, Chanel, L'Oreal, MAC, to learn how to retail. And we did that for a period of time and ended up in 36 department stores. I also went on QVC twice a week to get the brand out. And I've got VHS videos of me on QVC selling Aveda.
Did that work?
Yeah, it was from a cash flow. They buy your product, they ship it out, you don't have to do, so they pay you up front for it. And that worked to get, but it contributed to getting the brand out. Well, Estee Lauder acquired Aveda, and they wanted London. They took back the distribution. And then I met a gentleman called Edwin Neal in Minneapolis at a distributors meeting, saying, "You're not going to see me again. They've just bought me out." So he said, "Well, come and be a consultant to Neal Corporation." And it's in New Orleans. Well, I've been to the States many times, New York, Miami, California, never really been south. So New Orleans was tempting. So I did. He didn't tell me it was 40 miles north in a village called Hammond, but it was wonderful. I looked at the States and thought, I don't want to compliment what you've got. I want to go away and find out what the industry doesn't have. I studied it for 18 months and realized that everyone's putting wet products on shelves of different styles. Some were behind a reception desk. Some were in locked cabinets. And they were not displayed at a professional level because it was left to the individual salon to decide how it was displayed.
Right.
So I came up with a concept of designing furniture purely for the Aveda market. And I realized pretty quickly, nobody wants furniture. They want the results that furniture achieve. So how do you sell that through? And then, we worked with Aveda to put together a series of foundations that were shelf talkers, graphics, space planning. And that worked for many, many years and very successfully. I broke away to be independent in 2006 to be able to design Aveda salons and non-Aveda salons around the country. But my mindset was different. There were many consultants who were giving business programs for salon owners. There were many consultants that were doing technical skills for service providers. I was looking at it from the consumer's perspective. So I decided to study the consumer, how they think and act within a specific environment. I studied the best retailers outside of the industry, the best service providers and the best marketers like Walt Disney and Apple, and emulated those best proven practices to bring that into the industry. So when a space is now designed, it's not designed around a service, it's designed around the emotional needs of the consumer accommodating the functionality of service. So it's a paradigm shift. And to me, it's the same consumer that goes into Apple, Starbucks, that comes into a salon. But for some reason, we think of them as guests. You don't sell to guests. Guests come to your house. You wouldn't want to sell to people that come to your house. It's a mindset. Now,
what's interesting to me is how much these retail environments have affected our emotions and our moods when we're in the stores. Like you bring up Apple, and certainly the Apple stores are like, it's like walking into a rocket, a spaceship or something. It just invites you to come and play with all of the devices that are in there. And, you get to, but it's utopian in that everything is spaced appropriately. Everything is at a certain height. There's all, and then it draws you deeper into the store, and it just gets a little bit more crowded back there. Like there's activity going back there. I mean, how does that vision and seeing what they're doing and other companies like that affect, our salons and how they are being designed these days?
well, as you described it, it's environmental psychology. And environmental psychology encompasses many different facets, including color psychology, ethnology, retail anthropology. Ethnology is how people think. Retail anthropology is how people walk. And environmental psychology is how people think and act within a specific environment. So whatever environment you want to achieve, it's through environmental psychology. And the analogy I would use is if you think of a purpose spa room, if the walls are neutral, the essences are calming, the lights are low, and the music's soft, you created an environment for relaxation before anybody touches you as you enter that room, you're de-stressing. That's the power of environmental psychology. Well, it's exactly the same in a shampoo area. You want a relaxing area for that. You want an energetic area in the salon, and you want a buying environment in the retail. So in a retail environment, the fundamental goal of any designer is to, as you explained, get people to the back of the store.
Right.
So an accent color at the back, color psychology affects the brain. Certain colors affect the brain. Brown is conducive to hunger. That's why McDonald's trays are all brown. Pale blue is conducive to calming. That's why prison
right.
Have pale blue. Red to purple is conducive to buying. Now, you don't want to paint.
Red to purple is conducive to buying?
The range of red to purple is conducive. It's contributing. You don't see red and say, I'm going to start buying. But it's a contributing factor in the foundations to subliminally get people to buy. So you put a red or purple wall as an accent color at the back.
At the back
of the wall, yes.
Does that mean that you should put your front desk? What if you put your front desk in the back? Or
so I'm going to be a little controversial here because I think you should put the front desk outside the salon. I don't need any front desks anymore.
No front desk at all. Just put it.
No. The future, we're talking about the salon future. The future is consumers walking in and checking in themselves and checking out themselves.
They check in themselves and check out themselves. And then do they pay themselves like it's self-service? Like it's...
You have their credit card on file. And as you go through the door, it charges your card immediately.
It's like Amazon Go.
Exactly.
They come in, they're already, their info is already in your computer. Absolutely. They walk in, they check in with an app probably. And then maybe they hit another check-in screen when they walk in. And then somehow their stylist finds them, or...
Well, there's always someone there at the front. So, I mean, in the salons, I never recruited receptionists. I recruited retail specialists and taught them how to book an appointment. So I had the essence on someone who had the ability to ask questions. What type of skin have you got? What's your hair type like? You should be looking at this. And they also could book an appointment. Well, this person, a concierge, if you like, will be there to help people who haven't been before, to direct them through to the salon. you're not going to let people wander around the salon, but you're going to direct them to it. But consumers will be checking themselves in and checking themselves out on a mobile device like an iPad. And forward booking on that as well, and checking out like that.
Now, I know some people have already done this, like
Absolutely.
John DeJulius has done this in one of his places. Has it affected sales in any way, shape, or form?
That alone contributes. That's not the biggest way of affecting sales.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest way of affecting sales is to include digital content. So when the consumer picks up the product, it's Bluetooth to a monitor built into the retail unit.
Mm-hmm.
And a window pops up with a video showing this product. And by touching the screen, you can then get the features, benefits of the product. You can see how to apply it. You can see what other products link to it. So you've now evolved from purely relying on service providers or front desk people to sell products, where it's never going to be their primary objective. There's no other business that you would put personnel in charge of a business, because retail is a business within a business, whose not primary job it is to do that.
Are these devices for sale now?
Yes.
Yeah. So so basically it's like a shelving unit with screens behind it. And when you pull the product off, a taped description or a
video, it's linked from the barcode of the product, linked to the monitor behind, and a video pops up or a screen pops up relative to a specific product with the features, benefits, and possibly a bit of video how to apply it. And then you can touch the screen and get more information.
And do you create this content yourself, or do you have to get it from the manufacturer?
Well, that's one of the challenges. Manufacturers are not really up to that level. My concern really is to get...
You want to get that?
No, I don't.
Don't they know you're doing a podcast?
Yeah.
What is the matter with these people?
My concern about our industry is that the consumer's getting this technology outside of the industry, and they're coming in, and the manufacturers are just not at that level. They're not at that level that could support it. I believe in the future, the manufacturers will support it and do this kind of information. There are companies that can supply the content relative to the product for the video.
Right.
So they can supply that.
If you have a robust marketing, actually could send a sample video about this product directly to the consumer. So it's basically like a little educational video on how to use Confixer, for example, and it just goes right to the customer or the guest, as some people like to say. But yes, and you could create that really quickly. It might even be done specifically by the hairdresser, their hairdresser.
Well, that doesn't mean to say we shouldn't continue educating service providers that they should educate the consumer about the appropriate products. Of course, we do that. But as a strategy to maximize the potential retail sales, it's not the best one. Because what we do is we come in and we say, you've got to sell, it's an appropriate thing to do, it's part of your job, here's the incentive to do so. And you get a spike, but then it dies unless you're constantly doing that. And who wants to do that? See, to me, the future of salons, we've evolved. We've evolved from a service business to an experience business. So we now evolved from experience to personalized experience. So Tony, I'm not going to treat you the same as I did the previous client, which is a generic experience. We gave every experience. So now we're giving personalized experience, which is a wonderful evolvement. We've got to keep that service, experience, personalized experience, but we have to add one more component, entertainment. We have to entertain consumers, and the digital content where they're checking themselves in and checking themselves out, touching the products by picking up the product, playing with the screen, having iPads built in the color area. we're entertaining the consumer. And in the future, we're going to have a monitor which scans your avatar, complete avatar, and superimposes it on a screen. So you can see what you look like in different colors, different styles, far more advanced. And it's you, you're in that screen.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to Apple, you're entertained. You play with the toys that are there. And by the way, in the middle, there's nothing for sale.
Mm-hmm.
Not one piece is for sale. When you decide to purchase, they bring your toy from the back. So that, to me, is the future. Digital content has to be incorporated into salons. And the pioneers that get that right will flourish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fascinating. So the digital content will be whatever, that's what's going to entertain the consumer.
Yes.
That's the thing. That way we don't have to sing a song or do a dance for anybody. We're literally, right. Yeah.
And that kind of leads me on to the salon of the future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fortunate that I communicate with the top 15, 20% of the industry. The vast majority of salons, high-end salons all around the country, are saying there's two things that are happening. Salon suites, everyone knows, and online purchasing.
Yeah.
It's not something we should shy away from. And my question is, what are you doing about it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, most salons' retail sales are not increasing. Most manufacturer professional sales are not increasing.
Mm-hmm.
Most manufacturer online sales are increasing. It's a fact. So the business model that we've had for many years has worked very well. But I think it's time for a new business model. I'll explain what I mean. And the analogy again I use is Starbucks. When you go to Starbucks, you think of them as a coffee house.
One of my favorite places.
Tea, some sell beer, wine, newspapers, food. 48% of what Starbucks sell is not coffee. CVS, you think of as a pharmacy. 38% of their sales are cosmetics. Gas stations wouldn't survive purely on gas. You have to negotiate your way through with all different items to sell. If pharmacies, coffee houses, and gas stations are selling things other than their core product, why are we just selling wet products and so on?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same consumer.
Right.
The same consumer that goes to Nordstrom comes into our salon. Why are we just doing wet product in salons? And I think what is required is a paradigm shift.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see us keeping the quality of standards in a professional salon, keep high quality wet products, but have additional things appropriate to sell in salons. Mm-hmm. We've just done salons now, one in Grand Cayman with a wine bar. People come in for 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock at night for a glass of wine. They do anyway, these people, they go to wine bars. Uh-huh. And if they come in, they may buy a product and they may have a service, or they might not, but they come into your business. And that wine bar converts to a high-end coffee bar in the morning. Mm-hmm. So people come to Starbucks. I rarely see a Starbucks empty. They come in for it, but it's got to be a quality product, and you don't have to run it as a salon owner. You get a barista who wants to step up, you get him leasing and equipment, and he runs it professionally. It's got to be high-end.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We did a salon in London that has a concession for Gucci shoes and Gucci handbags. So women are in there longer. Shoes, handbags, makeup, hair care, skincare, and services. They're in there much longer than a traditional salon.
Right.
So when you do have people have a walkout, mm-hmm. It's obviously upsetting, but it's not as impactful if 40 to 50% of your business is from services other than service of your income. It's not as, and why would you leave? This is a great place to be from a service provider.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got a wine bar, you've got a coffee bar, you've got activity, you've got extra customers coming in because they're using those facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to leave that kind of environment? Why would you not want to join that kind of environment?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's easier for Apple to get employees than other places, retail places, because it's a fun place to work.
Right.
That's key.
So during your speech last week, you talked about the nature of these almost vending machines that are on the front windows of some European salons.
Yeah.
That is amazing to me. I think you showed a picture of a device which would be opened all the time at the front window of a salon. And basically someone could purchase right there, even when the salon is closed, right from the sidewalk in front of the salon. How likely is that? How soon would that kind of thing? Is that happening now? And when's it coming to my neighborhood? Because I want one.
Well, the key is this. It has to be a high street salon.
Okay.
Destination place, you've got to have people passing by. So there are salons in Europe that have RFID, which is radio frequency, mm-hmm. built into the glass front window. So when the salon is open for 9-10 hours for service, it's open 24 hours for retail. So you touch the glass and get what you want as far as products concerned, and takes your credit card, and a vending machine brings it immediately. So the salons that are doing that, one's in Holland, one's in Germany, and I believe there's one that's going to be opening in England as well. 65% of their sales are retail because they're open 24 hours for retail. Mm-hmm. And yes, that technology is available now. You can get food by touching a glass mm-hmm. window. So it's available now, but again,
it's a form of Amazon Go. It really is.
It's a form of Amazon Go. Yes, mm-hmm. it is. And you don't put your card in a slot. It's just, it's like Apple Pay. Mm-hmm. We press the side, it beams it, so nobody sees your card. Got it. Yes. See, RFID is an incredible thing. Apart from that, what works in Amazon Go is that the shelves have RFID. Mm-hmm. So when you take a product off, and this could be in the salon industry, this is my vision for the salon industry. Yes. When you take a product off the shelf, mm-hmm. it registers to the manufacturer to bring your product the next day to fill your stock by drone in the future, right? So you never have too much stock under the shelves. You never have stock around the back. The reason you have stock around the shelves and back is because you don't want to run out. Right. Well, you'd have to make sure your mins and maxes are absolutely correct. Yes. Your mins and max can be adjusted by algorithms daily. So you don't have to do it. So in other words, if your min, say you have a max of 10 of a particular shampoo, mm-hmm. because you've been selling 8 a day mm-hmm. or 9 a day. Well, if one day you sell 12, the next day it automatically brings 12. So your min max, and it doesn't actually grow again until you have a reduction. So the algorithm reduces and increases your min max automatically. You don't even need to worry about it, but you never have stock, money tied up with stock you're not using, and you never run out of stock because it's 24 hours the next day. That's the future of retailing. I mean, the future of the industry is exciting, but it's not the same model as it is now. It's a brave new world, that's for sure. It's a brave new world. I mean, in Germany, there's 3 salons operating with wireless blow dries, Bluetooth and battery, no wires. How do they get enough power to do that? It's Bluetooth and battery. It's enough power in it to operate. It's the way it was described to me
Hmm.
It's like an alternator on a car. It's recharging all the time. So you're not putting it back on a stand. It's recharging. So
Wow.
it's amazing. There's so many innovations that that are happening outside the industry that I believe at the right time people will bring in.
Right. I was at a Veda Congress this weekend, and they were saying that only 20% of the jobs that exist right now will still be there in 20 years. And that even jobs such as hairdresser could be radically transformed. I mean, we've been looking at this robot barber idea for 2, 3 years. I think it's going to happen eventually. Somebody's going to create it. It's a pretty simple device. Um, take a robot arm and put a clipper on it, and there you have it. So these things could be radically transformed, and our lives could be radically transformed as well.
Yeah, it's a brave new world and a different world than I grew up in, and you either adapt or die, and that's a very simple truth of the matter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, you can't build the future with legacy thinking. You can't build a future with the legacy thinking. Today's initiatives are tomorrow's minimum standards with increasing rapidity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we have to look at it. We cannot be complacent. And the truth of the matter is that our industry falls into three sections: high-end, chain, mid-market, and budget.
Mm-hmm.
The budget salons will always survive because they have very low overheads, low expectations, and they'll always survive.
Mm-hmm.
The mid-market's going to suffer the greatest because there's no real identity.
Mm-hmm.
There's no investment. I think the high ends they are high end and successful salons because they're smarter than the average owners. And they are pioneers. And I think that they will get it, or they'll get it in and realize I'm going to do this in 6 months' time,
Mm-hmm.
or they won't get it. But generally, I think we'll end up with an industry that's very good, much less salons than we have now, but quality. And if you look throughout history, from the agrarian society, that died when the Industrial Revolution came. And then the Industrial Revolution died when the Technological Revolution came.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going through this human cycle. I mean, it's incredible what's happened in technology in recent history. In the last 140 years, which is a very short period of time on this planet, we had no airplanes, we had no cars, we had no antibiotics.
Can you imagine?
40 years ago, we had no internet or cell phones. So, when you look at life that way, and you look at it that way, you can see the evolution of human genome. And it's incredible what's happened. But what holds us back is fear.
Mm-hmm.
Fear stops us reaching our potential. It's fear that stops us taking chances. We need fear because fear stops us walking into traffic or jumping off buildings or handling poisonous snakes. Fear stops us reaching our potential. And then fear can turn into worry. And we worry to stop ourselves fearing. So it's a kind of a vicious circle. And the pioneers are the ones that have taken calculated risks. Steve Jobs worked out of he had the courage to drop out of college
Mm-hmm.
and work from his garage on an idea. That's courage. Courage of convictions of people throughout life has inspired us. I mean, if you think of first Neil Armstrong, the courage to leave this planet and go into space. And if you think of people who had courage of convictions, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, who had the courage of their convictions to stand by what they believed. these men broke the shackles of society, and they are inspirations to all of us to actually elevate our thinking and think to a higher order.
Certainly, certainly. So, Leon, when did you get your PhD? Like, at what point in your career?
I was in my mid-20s
Uh-huh.
when I got 6 when I got my PhD.
Was this in between Sassoon and the 300 salons or so?
Yes, it was. I was at Sassoon's at the time.
Uh-huh. And you did
Yes,
that from London, right? This was in London.
London.
Hmm. And
Yes,
specifically, your degree is behavioral psychology.
behavioral psychology. Yes,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
actually first started clinical psychology and didn't really like it. But behavioral psychology was much more fascinating. To study someone and make a prognosis based on variable elements. And it's helped me in my life in negotiation,
Uh-huh.
in relationships. I'll share glean something with you now.
Hmm.
We can control everything we want consciously, other than one thing. I can control what I say. I can control my voice modulation and inflection.
Yes.
I can control everything. I can control my hand movement, body language. There's one thing you can't control, it's your eye movement. If I was to say, Tony, I want you to imagine a blue elephant, you'd look up to the right because you're creating a vision. If I was to say, Tony, I want you to visualize your last vacation, you'd look up the opposite way. Think of your favorite music, you'd look auditory, sideways to the right.
Mm.
Think of your neighbor speaking in a Donald Duck accent. You've never heard that before. You're creating that auditory. The feeling of silk, you look down. So you combine the eye movement with the dilation and contraction of your pupils.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't rely on one thing, and you rely and the content of what you're saying, and then your voice modulation and inflection, allied to your body language and how many times you would touch your hair or the glass. It's a common denominator of all those facets that tell the real person behind the facade we all put up. We are true to ourselves when we're in the bedroom on our own. The rest we're on stage. It's that much or that much. Yeah, I have to tell you, when I was young, I never shared this with people because I wouldn't get a second date if I shared that with anyone.
Does Madeline know you know this much?
Yes, she does. Sits there with her arms folded a lot.
And so there's a little resistance there.
Yeah, well, it's very difficult because you can't do it in someone you're close to.
I heard some
Emotion.
I heard some story about a psychic who could read everyone's mind other than her husband's. So once you get, so it works on everybody except for that person. They know.
In response to that, nobody can read your mind.
Right.
They actually read the implication of your thoughts. So
Your body language.
But your body language, your eye movement, they get the implication of your thoughts. They can't read your mind.
Right. So this goes to your studies also go to consultations, and actually the one-on-one interaction that you have that a hairdresser who's probably listening to this would have with a guest, that those slight interactions that we have. And it's very interesting. I don't know if you know about Vishen Vakani. He was at Serious Business a couple years ago, and gave an amazing presentation. But he is now doing classes on intuition, and thinks that intuition is the most important skill of the rest of this century at work. Okay. So suggesting that, for instance, when you're with a guest and you can really read them because of like what you're saying, because of their body language or because of their slight changes in facial twitches or something to this effect, that you would be able to know, you know, whether the cut that you mentioned is correct or the other one that you mentioned is the way to go. So very interesting idea. You're kind of saying something similar. He might be thinking about a little bit more from a spiritual perspective. But what do you think about that? Do you think intuition is the skill of the future?
There's no doubt intuition is a wonderful, wonderful attribute. But there's something that stops us reaching that level.
Mm-hmm.
It's called filters. We approach people in conversations from a filter that we have. You know, the analogy I would say is when a stylist is going to approach a customer about a product, they're approaching it from their perspective. Would $40 be expensive for a shampoo? It depends on your filter. If you're a student, yes, it would. If you're an architect, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a lady, maybe not. But a man, yes, if they probably would. If you lived in India, it would be expensive.
Right.
If you lived in America, it wouldn't be. And you can go on and on with filters based on who you are and what you do. And the fundamental goal is to approach someone not from your perspective, but never assume someone's pocket because of the way they're dressed.
Mm-hmm.
Never assume someone's pocket at all. Present what is appropriate and right for the consumer. Mm-hmm. And we always did a system, and we used these 2 pointing questions when we were asking retail. And it has to be professional, it has to be the right products. We've done someone's hair, they're in the mirror. We ask them 2 pointing questions. How do you feel? Well, you should feel good coming out of a beauty salon. How do you look? I look good. Once you've solicited those 2 answers, I always train the staff to ask this one question. Would you like to maintain that look in between visits until I see you next time? Mm. What are you going to say? No, I don't want to maintain that. You have to say yes, right?
Of course.
She looks good. She feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to maintain that look in between visits until I see you next time? Well, yes, I would. These are the products I use on you to achieve that look. Let me tell you how you use them and how often. Now, you may have used styling products, shampoo, finishing products, makeup, skincare. You might have used 8 or 10 products. You put them there and explain it to them. The chances are they're not going to take 8 or 10 products, but the chances are great they're going to take more products if you didn't say anything.
Correct.
Everything in life is in the positioning.
Mm-hmm. How
you position it. Everything in life is in the positioning. And it's just a matter of verbiage. And the analogy I gave when you were there is Apple train their staff to not say unfortunately. They say as it turns out.
As it turns out, but not unfortunately, we don't have an opening. As it turns out, we don't have an opening, but we have this.
Yeah. So you know, if you say, you know, can you fix this computer? Unfortunately, not. As it turns out, you need an upgrade. So you turn it into a positive. So everything in life is in the positioning. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a fundamental key.
As it turns out, yes. Eliminate unfortunately from your vocabulary.
Right.
Very good. Very good. And when now I know you were, the company you were, when you went to New Orleans, that would have been Etopa?
Yes.
Yes. So I find this one thing really interesting with Aveda, but also I see it with some other companies now, but I'm wondering who came up with this idea of the launch pad and how when somebody comes into a location, they sort of storm through, but the launch pad sort of gets them to put the brakes on for a moment. Was that?
Well, it was a collaboration with Aveda. See, at the end of the day, this wasn't new. You went into Crate and Barrel. You
Mhm.
went to Barnes and Noble. You went into any serious retail store outside, and you had this stopgap launchpad. And the reason that's there is that when the consumer's walking outside
Mhm.
and they go into a store or a salon, they're walking at a different pace. You don't walk at the same pace as you come into the salon.
Mhm.
The temperature outside is different. The lighting outside is different. Your nerve endings are changing as you are walking in. So
Mhm.
the consumer never sees anything at the door because they're just adjusting themselves from the outside light and pace. So you set it 6 feet back, and that's exactly what serious retail stores do. So it's
Right.
emulating the best practices. So
They want to stop people like me who know exactly what they want. They make a beeline to the shelf that they want to go to. They get what they want. They buy it and they leave without looking at anything else. They don't want people like me.
that's primary why when you actually look at a launchpad,
Uh-huh.
the primary product of what you want to sell, the best-selling product, milk, bread, best-selling shampoo, is at the back of the store.
All right.
So we know the American consumer generally walks as they drive. So they come into the store, they go to the right.
Ah.
9 out of 10 go to the right.
Mhm.
So your promotion would be in first zone. The back of the store would be your best product. And then your checkout would be in the left corner.
Mhm.
And the way out would be zone 4. So you've exposed the consumer to the greatest amount of inventory for the longest period of time.
Mhm.
In America, we are time poor, not cash poor. The longer someone is in a location, it equates to how much they spend.
I'm thinking about this and I'm saying one of my locations is laid out wrong. Two.
Well, traditionally, salons,
Uh,
when you come into a salon, for years you came into the front desk
right.
and then you went through. It's a missed opportunity.
Uh-huh.
So even if you don't do the self check-in,
Mhm.
the check-in should not be at the front. If you decide, okay, I'm not ready for self check-in and check out, but yeah, I want to evolve from what I've got now, you should come in to serious a launch promotion, but serious back wall of illuminated retail. So your vision is that's exactly what you see. You see retail as your first vision, not the desk. And the desk is to the side. I prefer podiums because it's more personal
Mhm.
rather than a desk, to the side. I mean, retail areas in salons are not that big. They're anywhere between 500 and 1,000 square feet. But you can
Right.
find a desk. It doesn't have to be right at the door. And that now enables you to adjust from the outside and see serious retail and touch and feel the products and experience the products. And that's fundamentally important so that the check-in and check-out is not the feature, the retail and the experiential is the feature.
Right. Fascinating. Fascinating. So what are you working on now? What's your big?
Well, I'm working on a number of different things. I'm working on a second book.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh,
Again, it's about the consumer, but it's a little deeper than the first one, and it won't be just for the beauty industry. Whereas the first one was a window into the consumer's mind, was for the beauty industry. I'm working on with a gentleman called Dylan on bringing technology advances into the industry. I'm working on designs that are quite unique, color areas being the focal point. So many years ago, what we did was we went into salons. The dispensary was in the back. Then it evolved to have open color labs. We went through the salon and the color lab was in the back. Now I'm designing color labs as the feature so that you can do it round and people sit all round a color lab. And everyone who doesn't have a color or has a color goes through the color department so that
wow.
it becomes a feature. Colors
Right.
in our industry, but yeah, it could be bigger. and you've got to make it fun and exciting so that the color area is, I want to be, that sounds fun. I want to do that.
Mhm.
So you're combining color with high-end espresso. Like, and the Nespresso companies?
Right.
Right. So color with high-end espresso and maybe flutes of champagne. So
Ah.
let's make it fun and entertainment.
So it's like a hair color bar that
Right.
includes beverages, actual beverages.
Right, and that should be limited, not spirits or beer. It's just really nice wine, champagne, coffee. Keep it
Coffee.
simple.
Mhm.
You can accommodate most people's fancies with that.
Mhm.
And to me, that's an important thing of designing the salon of the future, and not just limited to wet products. I mean, just designing things that would be compatible, that would give more revenue and keep people longer in locations.
Mhm. What do you think about some of the other elements in the salons that people are building right now, like quiet rooms for shampoo areas? What do you
Um,
think?
I, without doubt, I mean, over the last 5 years, every shampoo area we've done has lighting, not, when you're sitting in a shampoo bowl, you're sitting at a 45-degree. And I always go into a salon, existing salon, and I look up and there's a fluorescent light shining in my eye. It's not
Mhm.
very relaxing. The light should be over the bowl, not over the consumer.
Mhm.
And you should have scones and uplighting, but you need lighting to check the color in the bowl. So the music, the lighting, the environment should be relaxing, should
Mhm.
be totally relaxing. And of course, naturally, it depends on the size of the salon. If you've got a salon that's 2,500 square feet upwards, you can afford to do some really nice things for the consumer.
Mhm.
If you're under 2,500 square feet, you still some nice things for them. But obviously, you're limited by space. So that's
Right.
a fundamentally key thing to do, is to actually make sure that it's done for the consumer's experience. If you actually did a strategic blueprint
Mhm.
and you looked at it from the consumer's perspective, so when you do your vision, when you do your mission, when you do your core purpose, when you do your resources, the financial, technological, human resources, then you do your strategies, and then your initiatives, and then your key measurements. Every single one of those should be from the consumer's perspective. How can we give them entertainment, experience, service, and serious retail?
Mhm.
Uh, I said at the Millennium Conference, and there was, I think, about 500 salon owners there. Who owns a salon? And most people put their hand up. See, I don't think you own a salon. I think you own a business that happens to be in the beauty industry.
Mhm.
Paradigm shift. If you accept that, then we need to implement strategies that emulate the best practices of serious retailers, marketers, and service providers outside of the beauty industry,
Mhm.
because we've established it's the same consumer. So to me, the pioneers that understand that, and there are many that do, really run it as a business first. And if they run it as a business first with best business practices, then they're looking at it from the consumer's perspective.
Mhm.
And that's key.
Do you think that the consumer's perspective has anything to do with the booth versus a traditional salon?
Um, Look, I believe we are social.
Mhm.
I believe, yes, we all buy online,
Right.
but at the end of the day, we are social. We want to connect with people.
Mhm.
You know, I communication is when one person is speaking to a group of people. Connecting is when we are interacting with each other and we understand the implications of your thoughts and you understand the implications of my response.
Mhm.
So that's connecting. And I believe as human beings, we want to connect. And
Mhm.
that's why I've got great positive confidence that in a different format, the salon industry will evolve. You know, I don't use the word change because change could be for the worse.
Mm-hmm.
You can change good, you can change for bad. You can't evolve for the worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the industry will evolve because it will actually do things for the emotions of the consumer. It's all about emotions. We all wear different colored clothes, different cars, because we like that. It's an emotional buy. And you know what we have to do in that limited time is to get to the bits of the brain that's subconscious and buy. We have to raise dopamine when we're in the store. When we're in that retail environment, we have to raise dopamine. It takes 2.5 seconds to make a purchasing decision to hand over a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
2.5 seconds.
Right.
Because you've raised dopamine, you flush the brain with pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to make sure that the product you're selling is appropriate for the consumer. It's not a sale. It's the right product. It's professional. And you've got a long-term relationship. As you exit the store, and if the product isn't right, dopamine comes down and logic comes back up. And you think, what the hell have I just done? It's buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse. Yeah.
So that's why it's vitally important to make sure that you're giving the right skincare, hair care product for the consumer, and making sure that you connected with them emotionally.
Right.
That's the intuition that Vishon mentioned.
Yes. Yes. It's really fascinating. I could talk to you for hours, seriously. Leon, I just want to thank you for coming on. How can people get in touch with you? And if they want to, I read your blog, which is amazing. You have a lot of entries, actually. People can learn a lot more and get some of this advanced wisdom that you're talking about on your blog. Where can they find that?
All the blogs are on our website. We've got about 20 different blogs that have been published in Salon today. Most of the blogs are in the book because I did a compilation of blogs. The website is uriscodesign.com.
uriscodesign.com.
Yes.
Perfect. Great. And you also, as a company, you're doing space planning, space design, and then selling furniture as well.
That's right. I mean, all of our consultation and the space planning is complimentary.
Uh-huh.
I have a mission to elevate the thinking.
Hold on. Did you say the furniture was complimentary?
No. All of the space consulting is complimentary.
Just checking.
Yeah, I know. The furniture is not complimentary.
I was going to say, you owe me some money back.
I've got a mission to elevate the thinking of the industry. At this stage of my career, I'm passionate about the industry and I want to make sure that it flourishes going forward.
Right.
So, I don't want to sell furniture. I want to design a vision that's sustainable and profitable for salons.
Wonderful. All right, Leon. Well, thank you so much. And again, anybody can reach him at uriscodesign.com.
Yes.
Yes. And again, thank you for coming on. That was very enlightening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll see you in Ireland next.